Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of my Toon Boom introductory video. In this video, we're gonna animate Katie's head bouncing up and down. Um, so if you missed the first one, or just came straight to this one, just keep in mind I'm just gonna I'm gonna skip a bit of hotkey information that was explained in the first video. Alright, let's animate something. So for this exercise, what I have planned is I'm just gonna animate Katie's head bouncing up and down. That should be enough for an hour or so. There's a lot to go through. So let's see. First, we have timeline here. And I'm gonna select the Katie build, which is on the top. I'm gonna hit F6 to key everything. As long as this build is collapsed, we can open it up and see like all the different parts of it, or I think 9 is the hotkey for that, and we can see all the different parts that makes up Katie. All the teeth, nose, eyes, and so on. All the different parts. So you can choose to animate these individually, and we will eventually, but for now let's collapse everything. 0 is the hotkey to collapse everything, and we'll go to our first frame and hit F6 to make that a keyframe. Okay. And next, what I usually like to do is actually start on the second frame if I want to start manipulating the parts. So in case if I want to revert back to something, I'll have the first frame to go back to. Alright, so make sure the animate button is on, so the selection is yellow, and we're working with transform tool right here on the left hand side. Alright, let's get started. I think I'm gonna pose her squinting down first. I'm using F and G to go back and forth. The F and G are not default. I changed it. Default going back and forth the frame is one of those these guys, period and comma. But for now, we're using F and G. And I'm selecting the eyes and using the square brackets to get to the parts we want. I'm selecting and using B button to go up the hierarchy. When you're animating, there will be a lot of flipping back and forth. That doesn't look right. I'm going to create a drawing just for my own reference. So how I like to do that is just click on the topmost peg or anything here, and there's a little button. There's like a red red triangle, a yellow circle, and blue square, and that button is add a drawing layer, and that adds a drawing. When you click that, it'll be empty at first, so we're gonna have to create a empty drawing layer. So click on the first frame. To create an empty drawing layer, I've set my hotkeys to Control-Shift-D. And if you haven't watched the first video and this is the first time you're watching this series, look at the video description right now, and I have linked the Google document that lists all the changes I've made and the default shortcuts that you should know for Toon Boom. I should mention that, okay, hang on. So that creates an empty drawing in the first frame. If I want to extend it, I'll just click the go to the last frame and F5 to extend the drawing. So what we're gonna do with this one, let's see, just gonna make a new color here, red. So Alt B on this empty drawing so we don't see anything. So I'm just gonna create like a ground plane reference here. Ground. Sure, that could work. And then I'm gonna lock it using this lock layer, little lock icon, so I don't accidentally move it around. I've done the same with this white background. By default, this is what you get. There's nothing. So for the background, what I've done, I created a drawing which is empty rectangle, and I simply filled it with white. Okay, I'm gonna move the drawing down to here. I'm just gonna drag it down. If we look at our network, so here's our KD build. This is our drawing, which is, we're gonna name it. If you want to go into the layer property, is you either click this yellow square in the network or Shift E. So if I go here, drawing, Shift E, this is what we get. Let's name it to ground ref. Elements name should not have space, and I don't think it will allow you, so underscore is the default I think it gives you once you hit space. So that's that. That's how you make a basic drawing layer. So when she's squishing down, it should be more like this. So when you're having a character squish down, just be mindful of what is happening. Because, for example, don't squish the whole body and leave it at that. I mean, that could work, but if you're gonna squish someone's body or head in this example, make sure it's squishing properly But all the eyes, brows are all relatively coming together, being squished towards the center. Alright, that looks pretty good. Next we'll work on, so I just moved the second pose to frame 3. Next we'll skip to frame 5 and make a key there, pushing F6. And I guess I wanna, do I want to have her eyes open on the way up? Sure. No, maybe not. Or yes? I'm not sure. Yeah, let's do that. That's quite nice. And maybe she'll smile. The mouths I have here, they are for 3/4 front, so it doesn't quite work for this front view, right? So let's draw a new mouth. Okay, so the way I had this set up, I won't explain how I set it up, but I have mouth separately and I have a teeth and tongue in a separate layer, and this is all within one drawing. So for now we're gonna keep the teeth and tongue, but we're gonna change this mouth shape. So we're gonna go into drawing mode using any of the drawing tools, so Alt B in my case. In drawing mode, every drawing are allowed to have up to 4 layers. Most of the time I work with this. If you look down here, most of the time I draw my stuff on the second one, which is called line art. They're just names. It doesn't really matter what they're named, but what you should know is like this one is at the very top, and this one's in the middle, second, third, and this one's in the very bottom. And this button here, it preview lines and color art. When you hit that, it just basically shows, well, at least it should show everything that is underneath, or is on top. it should like show everything on every layer here. So we're gonna duplicate this drawing, Alt D, because I don't want to mess with the mouth shape I have there. So always, if you're gonna modify a drawing, always duplicate it, and look at the in the library, look at the drawing over here and make sure it was duplicated. If you don't, you don't want to override what was already in the build, and it's kind of pain in the ass to go back and try to fix it. So okay, so originally this mouse is called HD. So once I duplicate it, the default goes to number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So we're gonna move that over. Alt select, Alt S for select. I'm just gonna select everything, and then just move over. Alt B for brush. I'm gonna hold D and sample her lip color. And that looks a little thick. Let's see. So I'm going to brush tool properties. My thinness will be 1 and thickest will be 7. How about that? No? 3 maybe? 0 and 3. How about that one? Alright. That's good. Oh. Yeah, select tool, Alt S, yeah. And then Alt T, cutter tool. And then Alt I for paint. I'm gonna hold D to sample this mouse color here. In Toon Boom, selecting the not just the same color but the same pool of color is very important. Because in my case, this inside mouth color here, this maroon color, that's the color that will determine where the cutter happens. So all this teeth and tongue will only stay within this maroon color of inside mouth. I can have another maroon color that is similar, but it will not work unless it's from this specific pool of color called inside mouth. So here we have our mouth. Oh, important thing. 1 and 2 is zoom in and out defaults for Toon Boom and all of Toon Boom software. If you're left-handed and using right hand for keyboard, I think 1 and 2 is still very useful. Never 1 and 2, this is so good. 1 and 2 for in and out. Alright. So it's just like, that doesn't look like quite enough squash to me, but as we're animating, we'll actually think about more of extreme. Yes, that's not quite enough squash. Stretch, and the top. As we reach the hang time, I'm gonna hold shift and then move it up, so that way I know it's like a straight up instead of slightly to the left or right. Okay. I don't want to spend time trying to reset everything to its original shape. I can, but what I'd rather do is go to the first frame. I'm gonna copy, Control C, and go to this current frame, which is frame 7. I'm gonna paste it, and there we have it. And I'm just gonna move it up. That's pretty good. Looks like in this frame she lost a bit of volume, so I'm gonna stretch her a little bit like that. And let's give that same mouth. So I'm gonna hierarchy up to make sure I select the whole mouth and copy, go to next frame and paste. This is also another good thing about Toon Boom compared to Flash. You can make a selection and go to a different frame and it will retain the selection for you. Whereas Flash, I believe you make a selection you go to the next frame, then you have to make a selection all over again. And it's not like you have a hierarchy to conveniently go up and select, right? In Flash you have to select every single thing independently. That was my little rant about Flash. Actually, I don't like this open mouth. I want her to have that kind of there. And then she'll start to come down. Once again, especially the way I have it set up, when I want to select the whole face, I like to start with the nose, because I know after nose it comes the whole face, whereas I select from the iris here. If I hierarchy up, there'll be one eye, and then the next one here. It will take me quite a number of key strokes to get to the whole face, and mostly that's the case for a lot of the build I've came across. So if I want to select the face, I start with the nose. And she's a little bit excited, so I'm gonna reduce her pupil a bit. Her eyebrows up. Her hair will start to go up a little bit due to gravity. Or she should look down. Yeah, maybe a little bit. You can select multiple things individually while holding shift. So for example, if I want to move two pupils together, this is the way you do it. And the next frame. Because of the build and the design I'm working with, I don't want to move her hair too much. I think this might be a little bit extreme for this model, so I'm just gonna keep it like this. And I'm gonna check something. It looks like she moved a little bit. Yeah. So she's coming straight down, and then repeats, I think. So shift enter to playback, and because we have nothing over here, we're just gonna play nothing until the end. I'm gonna copy a bunch of these frames here, and then and paste. Simple as that. Control C, Control V. I can't remember if Flash is that intuitive. Maybe it is, yeah. I'm gonna copy it 3 times. Sure, that's kind of fun. But let's give it a little bit of timing. I'm just gonna undo all the copies that I made. And so I'm gonna select everything and just move it over. And then on the 3rd frame, maybe I'll give her slight anticipation up. Going back to 1st frame, I'm gonna adjust our eyebrows down a bit. So in the 2nd or 3rd frame, can give a bit of that. So this is frame 5. I'm gonna move it over. On second thought, I don't want that anticipation up. It might be too bouncy, so I'm just gonna leave it as is and then go straight to the squash pose. And on the next frame, I'm gonna key all frame and give a little bit more of a squash down. In Toon Boom, you can move the pivot point anywhere and it will only temporarily change it, so it doesn't affect any of the animation if you decide to tween it, unless if you want to change it permanently. For example, right now we have the pivot on the head to be based over face. If for some reason I want to permanently change it to the top of her face, over here in the advanced animation tool, we have rotate tool. That's what we use. So you select whatever you want to change and you hit rotate tool, and then if you change a pivot point in the rotate tool, it will change it for all the frames. You have to be careful not to do this while you're animating too much, because sometimes like you can get into a bit of mess while doing it. So always try to do it before you get into full animation and in betweening. Okay, so this frame I want her to squish a little bit more. Bring the whole face down relative to the facial features down relative to the whole head. Where's that mouth we created? Let's use that. It's more of a front on view. Oops. Copy. Paste it to this. So this frame will be our extreme. And of course this head was not really designed to bounce around like this, so the hair might look a little weird. Okay, so next frame we're gonna jump straight to this, and then this is our hang time frame, right? So I'm gonna move it over a bit, and I'm gonna go to this frame and hit K, and it creates this line on the timeline, and that is auto tweening, I guess in terms of Flash terminology. I think in Toon Boom it's called stop motion keyframe. So we're gonna activate that, and it just auto tweens it. I'll explain something really quick for those who are relatively new to animation. So for example, if we have a keyframe here and we have a keyframe here, so we get this sort of effect, right? And if I auto tween that, not a good example. Do you know what? Let's just go ahead. So we have this very even timed auto stop motion keyframe here. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select all this in the back here, and then I'm gonna stretch it even further so I have more keyframes to work with. And I'm gonna select the keyframe just before our hang time here, and then maybe 2 above, and then maybe 1 in the middle. So now what this is doing, let me illustrate. What I'm doing is essentially this. This is keyframe 9, okay. What I'm doing is essentially this. Frame 9 is our key. And what's the next one? Eleven, 13. So this is essentially what we're doing. So by stretching out this timeline here, I'll have more of a subtle keyframe choices. So once I've selected, let's go and do it again. So this is what we have. Right now it's all even, but I want the frames that I will have that give me the effects of 1 in the middle, 1 here, and then it will just ease into this hang time pose. So I'm just gonna select the one that is very close to our quote-unquote frame 17 keyframe here. But the reason why I stretch it so far is so that I can give a more of a subtlety. But if I work with here so close to what it actually is, the difference between frame 16 and 17 are still quite large. But if I stretch it out, it becomes a lot more subtle. So that's what we're gonna use. So select the one just before the hang time pose, and then, you know, just something like that. Yeah, I'm having a bit of issue trying to explain it to a wide audience, because I hope Well, if you're an animator yourself and just trying to get into a Toon Boom program, I assume you know all this by heart. So here we are. That's pretty good. Although the difference between this frame and this frame is still a lot. I'm just gonna delete that and create another one. Just maybe one more in between. Too much maybe. Or I'll just leave it for now. Let's see. So in this frame, I want her to open her eyes a little bit. Do I even have a drawing for that? Oof, the computer froze a bit. I do not have a drawing for that. Okay, so let's draw that frame. So I want her eye to, what I want is I want her eye to open up a little bit. Something like, oops, sorry. Something like that. So we're gonna draw that frame. So I'm just gonna pick randomly to a frame or drawing piece that that is open, so we can sample all the colors within it. Okay, so from this we're just gonna Alt B to get into drawing mode, Alt D duplicate it, Alt S select. Make sure if you find yourself that you can't select the drawing here, you're probably in the wrong layer mode. So make sure preview line and color art is off so you don't get confused. And it's probably gonna be in the line art layer. So there. I'm just gonna move it over. And Alt B again for brush mode. I'm gonna zoom in, sample her. Oof. Yeah. Sample her eyelash color. And let's see. So I'm gonna draw that. Eraser tool. Just taper it a bit. Let's see. I don't know if that might look off model, but it might be okay for our purpose. Sample her eye. Brush tool, eraser tool. And we're gonna go to stroke tool. Hit K to show strokes, and then just draw this invisible line. Paint tool, eyedropper, and paint. So, how does that look? Looks a little freaky, but let's hope it works. Okay, if you're in a drawing mode, and on the left hand side, if you hit this target button, that's the pivot. So with the drawing you can kind of define your pivot here, and if the build is set up correctly, your animation pivot should also move to where this drawing pivot is. Alright, I'm gonna copy and paste this. One thing that you need to know, if you select it and you have this pink rectangle box, that means you selected a drawing layer. I suppose I need to explain a little bit first. If we go to the network, I'm hitting C to jump to what I've selected here. It's O by default, but I changed to C. Alright, this is something I should explain. So this blue rectangle is the drawing layer, and it will hold all the information regarding your drawings, and it will hold all the information of what different parts that it has and so on. If the build is set up right, it shouldn't remember all the animation information you have put into it. If it's set up wrong, it will, but maybe we'll get to that later. So when you select this drawing layer, or drawing element I should say, so you can tell that it is drawing element because you see this pink rectangle. But if I hierarchy up, right, this is where we were, and then I hierarchy up by pushing B, and here this green node, this green element is what we call peg in Toon Boom, and this is where it will store all the animation information. If I move up, down, left, side, it will store all that information. So for our purposes, so for example, if I select this drawing element and then if I decide to copy and paste to the other eye, it will just do just that. Oh, there's a lot of things to explain. But well, sometimes it won't copy properly, because if you just do regular copy and paste, what it's doing is it's transferring that information. Okay, like I at number 9, it's gonna copy that information to here, and luckily because we didn't have I named number 9, it copied that drawing. But for example, on this her right eye, if there was something called, if there was I element that is number 9 already, now watch what happens. Let's do that for example. So if I copy, paste, it will only copy that information of I number 9 and then I number 9, but that's not what we want. So in that case, or maybe for the most time, if you want to change the copy the drawing over, what you should do is make sure you select this drawing element, not the peg, because if I, for example, if I select the peg, copy and paste it, oh, make sure you select the peg for this one too. Paste it, it will only copy the peg information. Anyway, so what we should do, select the drawing element, copy, and then Control B. This is what we call paste special. So for the basic tab, we'll select, right now it's set to only create drawing when they do not exist. Well, in this case, the program thinks it exists because there's already a drawing called number 9. But that's not the particular drawing we want, so we want to create a new drawing. So we select always create drawings. And then in the advanced tab, that's all we need to do for this one. I'll get into the different elements once we came across, and we hit OK. And then it successfully copied the drawing we want. So you just gave it a new name called 9-1. Hope that makes sense. But things like this will become more evident as you practice. Let's move on. So if you paste special, you might get into something like this. In that case, you can choose to change it from here, or select the drawing element. I'm gonna hold down C, and we're gonna go all the way down to timeline, and this is each drawing is separated by these lines here, and we can tell exactly where, oh boy, yes, we can tell where drawing switch takes place. So here we have drawing number 8, and we'll switch to number 9_1, but we want to keep that instead of switching back to 9. So you can go to the next frame and switch there, and it should switch for all the rest of it until it hits the next different drawing. Oh, hang on. Ah, that's strange. Okay. Ah, it appears the left eye and the right eye are quite different the way I've set it up. So okay, I'll just animate. So we're gonna, I want that eye opened, so I'm gonna copy the peg information and go to the next frame and paste it. Let's copy the whole face. And let's animate her mouth a little bit properly. Let's have her still closed mouth here. Pop open. Maybe move her, leave her tongue there. Oh, the best time she ever had in her life. She's so happy. Instead of her mouth gradually open, I want it to pop open. Hit that, and maybe open slightly bit here, but here I want it to slowly close. And her eyes aren't quite moving from this frame to the next, so we'll do something about that. Let's see. Stretch, squash. Yes, for the hang time, we'll make her facial feature kind of squish up a little bit. Just a little bit. You should worry about things like secondary action when you're done animating, but I kind of know exactly what I want to do, so I'm gonna do it right now. I want to animate in between these two, so I'm gonna hierarchy up, select all her ponytails. I'm gonna hold C and then go down to the peg that holds all three of those ponytails together. And if I open it up, I named the tail 1, 2, and 3. But for now, we're gonna collapse it. I didn't name it properly either, so I apologize for that. But so I'm gonna, in between this and that, so I'm gonna delete this keyframe that is in the middle, F7, and then go to this key, hit K, and then just soften it by using the keyframing the one just before the hang time. And then I'm gonna hit L to get rid of the stop motion keyframe function, and then just gonna move the newly created in between back into place. Stereo button to collapse it all. Yes, yeah. I think I made a mistake. So I'm gonna get rid of this middle key altogether, and in between those two. Every time you're gonna tween between the two, just make sure I'm gonna go between these two and or select the first keyframe and hit F6, and the same with the next one, F6, just to make sure everything is keyframed all the way down the hierarchy. I'm gonna hit K, then create a keyframe, L here to get rid of it, and then move it back into place. So I'm only on animating on 2s. Okay, let's do the same for in between this and this. When you're setting keys on the auto in between, always go from right to left, because you can't go from left to right, because what it will do is it just clears everything on the right side of the keyframe. See, if for example if I select in the middle and decide to keyframe that, it just clears everything to the right side. So we're gonna go from right to left all the time. And that's pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna copy and paste everything. Let's extend our scene here using this little red marker. I'm just gonna move it back, and see what happens once I get out of our original scene 60 mark. Everything disappears. That's because you need to extend all the drawings to the end here. So I'm just gonna select it all the way down and hit F5. That extends our drawings. So I'm gonna select all this animation, copy C, paste, Control V. Alright, let's do it one more time, and then I'm just gonna bring the scene back like this. Get rid of the ground plane. Oh yeah, let's put it to loop. I don't quite like how her eye shape during the hang time is kind of moving with the rest of their body. Yeah, but let's leave it at that for now. And I think the hang time might be a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna undo everything and go back to our initial loop cycle here. Yep, I think as she's coming down, it's a little bit too much, so I'm gonna get rid of one key. Okay. And as she's opening, I want her pupil to go smaller a bit. anything else do I want to do? Maybe change that to that eye. Let's experiment with that. Oops. One thing you should know about Toon Boom, the way it handles drawings, and it's very important that you understand this, and very important that I do a very good job at explaining this. Remember how this drawing was eye number 3, this frame, and that kind of goes, and this eye is still, oh, let's change to eye number 2. Let's give example like this. So if we go down to our eye drawing layer, I'm holding C to go down to it. All this is eye number 3, right? All this to end of the scene is eye number 3. But watch what happens if I go to the first frame of this eye number 3 and change to something else. What will happen? So we change to eye number 5. And for the rest of the scene, it changed to eye number 5. And only, so whatever you make a change in the beginning, like it will retain it until it hits the next different drawing. So sometimes you definitely don't want that all happening all the time, because if I want that drawing to have a closed eye and that drawing to have an open eye like this, you might run into it when you're animating. It will become more evident once you actually get into practice, but you should know that once you change something that is in the beginning of the same drawing, then it's gonna change to change it for the rest of this drawing here. Probably didn't explain that correctly, but so here we have eye number 3, which was going to the end of the scene, right? Oh, but if I change it to eye number 4, the rest of the scene becomes eye number 4. In this case, it's okay. It's a fairly small scene, and we can deal with that. But you should be aware of it. That is what's happening. Okay. I want those eyebrows to have more of change, so let's keep it. Oops. Squash here, and let's keep that straight. Let's see how it changed from the curved eyebrows to the straight one. And if I look at the next one, everything these straight eyebrows. Okay, I think I like that. We're just gonna copy paste several times. Yeah. I'm just gonna let's repeat it one more time. Okay. So I think this exercise is done, but before we go, let me add one more thing. And it's a good way to show you how I can. So step one to building a rig. So for example, so I'm gonna click ground reference and then hit add drawing layer button. And it creates a drawing element just above the ground reference. I'm gonna Shift Control D to create an empty drawing. I'm just gonna go to the last frame, hit F5 to extend it to the end of the scene. I'm gonna go into ellipse tool and then make a little ellipse. Let's select the color first. Or let's just do that. And then I'm gonna fill it with something. I'm gonna create a color by, you just have to make sure you're in a correct palette. I don't want to mess with the KD palette down here, so I'm just going to this like a scene palette. Down here there's plus sign, which is add color. I'm gonna double click it, go into color picker, I'll go into multi-wheel mode, or yeah, we'll call that shadow. And we'll keep it black for now. And then hold I, and then I fill it. I want to get rid of that original ellipse, so can I do that? Yeah, I should be able to. Not that one. The other one. That one. So we'll have this like one clean shape. Let's put a little add a gradient to it. So double click this shadow layer. There's solid and gradient. I'm gonna hit gradient. And we all used this sort of thing in Photoshop before. It's a linear gradient. Yeah, let's keep it linear. One end of the color will have kind of transparent dark gray, like so. And you do that by selecting the color arrow marker here and then playing with the alpha. And the next one, much less, maybe even lighter gray. If you want to change the angle of the gradient, right now is completely, you know, like vertical or horizontal, however you see it. If you want to change it, you select it, you go Shift F3 and then select it again, and you can change the gradient orientation. Okay, so let's rename this drawing also to shadow. And close. Okay, and then by holding this while I have the shadow selected, there's a button right next to add drawing layer. It's called add peg. I'm gonna hit that and then it automatically adds peg. But this peg doesn't come with any keyframe, so I'm just gonna go to first frame, then key that. But see how where our pivot is. That's not where we want it. We want it in the center of this shape, so since this is gonna be only one drawing that we're gonna be dealing with, let's just use rotate tool and move it to the center, and it should stay there. Perfect. Let's quickly take a look at the network. right here. Oof. You can navigate right now we're inside the KD Space Network. You can see where you are by looking at the bottom left corner, and you can navigate it by selecting it. We'll go to the top, and we have a bit of mess here, and this is the rough that I used. We can disconnect it to not show. I'll just delete it altogether. This is ground reference. Let's keep it for now. Here we are, shadow and this and that. I want to give it a little blur to it. So we'll go to Windows, Module Library. Here we are. And under favorites, there's blur radial, but it's also under filter, blur radial. So I'm gonna hold it, drag that over to our little network here, and then we're gonna connect it under this shadow drawing. So this blur radial would apply to the shadow here. I'm holding Alt and then just drag it over and it will connect it. And if I hold Alt again, and then I can take it out just the same. If not, I can just connect it like so, but that takes time. So that is a little trick while holding Alt. Blur radial. Is it blurred? Can you tell? I certainly can't. Let's render it to see what it looks like. Ooh, first thing, let's save. Let's save as new version. KDHead _ anim for that we have animated. Okay. Always save before you render something, because whenever you render a frame, there's always a good chance to crash since it uses a lot of the CPU. So if you can see, it is blurred, but not by much. So we're gonna go back into the network, blur radial, and we're gonna select this box, yellow box for preferences, layer properties. Shift E does the same thing. Okay, apparently it wasn't blurred at all because radius at 0. We're gonna bump it up. 2.4. Nah, that's a little bit too much. Maybe 1. 1's good. And close. And that's what it's gonna look like. Okay, we're gonna go back to OpenGL view, and here the effect is not shown, which is good because we don't want that using our CPU processing power. So let's animate this. As she's coming down, the shadow will grow a bit. It's gonna be smaller. Hang time. I'm gonna select all keyframe mode and kind of squish it a little bit and move it up slightly. I'm gonna move it to the left a little bit. The shadow seems to be glowing a little bit too much. Okay. All right. That looks pretty good. Although there's a little bit funky thing happening with her eyebrows right there. Oh yeah. Yeah. I gotta fix that. So I'm going to eyebrows and just clear all that information. Okay. And copy and paste everything again. Oh, the shadow is doing a little funky dance. I don't think it's the shadow's fault. Move those two over. Yeah. All right. That's good enough. Okay. Her eyes are a little bit funky. Alright, like you see how it's like separating to the side a bit. But those are like the more you are diligent at setting up your keys properly, the less mistakes you'll have to fix later on. So I'm fairly satisfied with this, so we'll call it a day. So thanks for watching. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful, or at least in an introductory sense that it's showing you what Toon Boom can do. So please leave a comment and question, and especially what you would like to see. 'Cause I want to gauge where everyone is at in terms of their animation skills. So I'll make several videos for different skill levels. If you work with Flash before, I can probably like skip a lot of the explaining some of the things and just stick to the programming or what the software can do. But if you're more if you're just getting into animation, then I'll explain more of the fundamentals as we go also. Alright, thanks again. I'll definitely see you next time.